Democritus had a theory that atoms were indivisible and indestructible. His ideas were limited because they didn't explain chemical behavior and they lacked experimental support.
Aristotle found that matter is made of atoms. He also found that matter will always exist. He also found 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and air. With all this, he came up with the theory of motion.
Antoine Lavoisier had the first version of the law of conservation of matter. He also named oxygen and hydrogen. He invented the first periodic table, which had 33 elements.
Proust discovered that each pure compound has its own characteristic elemental composition. For example, the ratio of elements never changed when though its mass changed. H2O would always be a ratio of 2 to 1, whether it was 10 grams or 1,000 grams.
John Dalton transformed Democritus' ideas on atoms into the scientific theory. He is known to have the most useful atomic theory of matter. To come up with this, he tested gases and used evaporation to find out what the gases had on that mixture altogether. He found the atomic weight and the chemical symbols. Michael Faraday built 2 devices to produce what he called electromagnetic rotation. That is a continuous circular motion from the circular magnetic force around a wire. 10 years later, in 1831, he began his great series of experiments in which he discovered electromagnetic induction. These experiments form the basis of modern electromagnetic technology.
Becquerel came up with radioactivity. He found this out from unknown X-ray waves which were produced by uranium. Penetrating radiation was also discovered by Becquerel. He also discovered that uranium was able to expose a photographic plate on black paper and didn't depend on the chemical state.
J.J. Thomson discovered the electron. He performed experiments that involved passing electric current through gases at low pressure. The result was a glowing beam or cathode ray that traveled from cathode to anode. He concluded that a cathode ray is a stream of electrons. Electrons are parts of the atoms of all elements.
Marie and Pierre Curie both picked up on Becquerel's work on uranium, which led them to find the elements radium and polonium. Though Mary went further with the radioactivity of elements, she didn't get very far. All she said was they were somehow disintegrating over time and emitting radiation that exposed the plate. Pierre went on to say that atoms might be composed of even smaller things. Max Planck was the person who came up with the original quantum theory. To come up with this, all he did was research the previous scientist and a little bit on his own, and then wrote a book on the quantum theory, the behavior of matter and energy in an atom. He also was looking at color changes from energy. He also made a math equation to help with his theory.
Albert Einstein found that the nature and matter intertwined somehow. The theory of measurement came about from this. Second, he published 5 papers on electrons. These contributed to the quantum mechanics. He said, lights consist of quanta, bundles of energy, which behave somewhat like particles. Robert Millikan was by far the most famous American scientist. He wanted to find the electrical charge of electrons. He measured water droplets, and that wasn't successful. So he measured oil droplets, where all this proved electrons were negatively charged. He also was a professor for many years and wrote many textbooks on chemistry. Rutherford directed a narrow beam of alpha particles at a very thin sheet of gold foil. Concluded that the atom is mostly empty space. All the positive charge and almost all of the mass are concentrated in a small region called the nucleus. Niels Bohr figured out the structure of the atom and their radiations. He also discovered the principle of complementary. He introduced electrons from the book he wrote on the structure of the atom. He also started the basis of the quantum theory. James Chadwick confirmed the existence of another subatomic particle called the neutron. Neutrons are subatomic particles with no charge but with a mass nearly equal to that of a proton. Strange clouds.